In this episode I'm going to be using some Metcalf papers and some Peco line size accessory kits to build a bridge for the right hand side of the layout. Now I started designing the bridge in a PCB application. Stranger here, say. Well, it was the only application I had that allowed me to correctly measure the blocks that I needed to build the bridge out of. For argument's sake, I needed a span. I had to span 3 tracks. I had measured the gap I needed, so I needed a gap of X centimeters or millimeters, and I had no means of really designing that in any other application. This application has a means of measuring the distance between tracks or distance between components, but it also has a graphic tool, so you can design shapes and put that into your PCB layout. So it was an ideal platform really to use for the design of the bridge that I wanted to build. So here you see me having designed the actual blocks to sizes I needed, aligning them up to get an idea of the pattern I'm going to use for cutting out the card later on. Once I was happy with the layouts, I then went to the print option and printed off a couple of copies so that they will use as a template for later on. And there we have our template. A quick check to make sure that the spacing was correct, and I'm very happy with that. So in essence really the bridge is just 2 blocks, 2 boxes for want of a better description. The only problem I had is I didn't have availability of a suitable size card. So the A3 card I had in my drawer was cut to length, and then 2 sections would be glued together or stuck together using double-sided tape. This gave me a card of substantial thickness to make a very substantial structure. Here you see me using the grid pattern on the cutting mat to get an approximation of the size. It's never going to be exact or accurate to that degree, but for this practice it didn't really need to be. Once I had the strips of card, it was out with a double-sided tape. Now this is really strange tape. I still can't recall where we actually got it from. I believe it might even be carpet tape. But you effectively stick it down to one side, you then peel off the backing paper and it leaves just the glue behind. And that glue is very, very tacky indeed. It was ideal for this purpose. So having covered the card in tape, all was left was to take another piece of card, line it up, and then stick it together. This then gave me a very nice piece of stout white card, which will form the basis of the model. Once I had my card made up, I then got my template that I printed off earlier and started cutting that out. once the template was cut out, another layer of double-sided tape was applied, and the template was then adhered to the card. The whole template was then cut out completely. Now, as I said, this is a scratch built. There is no real plans other than what really comes to you at the time. I needed to attach little scraps of card here to make supports. If I needed to make a bracing, it was another piece of card was cut and stuck to it, and you built it up as you went along, which is part of the fun of scratch building. In this part here I am attaching a small strip which is a brace, but it will also provide a support for the road section which will be fitted later. I used a mixture of PVA craft glue and thin CA glue as a means of attaching the parts together. A couple of the braces also had the double-sided tape, which made life a lot quicker. Having completed the structure, another layer of double-sided tape was added. This time this will be used for attaching the Metcalf papers. The only drawback I find with the Metcalf papers is that they're not exactly long, or should I say the sheets are not wide, so you end up with a gap which has to be filled. Now later on I may go back and put another strip over the top of this, or I may leave the overlay that I've put together in place because it's under the bridge and it may not be noticeable. It depends. Now that's the whole point when you scratch build. You can change the plan as you go along. You assemble it as you go along. You come up with means of getting over a problem as you go along. Anyway, once the paper was attached, it was a simple matter of just trimming it to size and getting rid of the surplus. So once I'd built the two parapet sections, a strip of card, or should I say two strips of card, were cut and stuck together to form the roadbed. Again, here you see me applying a small layer of PVA glue and attaching the roadbed to the left hand parapet. Again, CA glue and PVA glue was used as a mix. You may notice that the back of the model doesn't actually have any brickwork paper applied. This is because where the back seam will be attached, the idea is that trains will run under the bridge and then they'll go off into the rest of the world or wherever they need to go to their destinations, and they'll appear from that bridge. So as there's going to be a rear panel attached to the side of that bridge, there's no need to have brick papers applied. So having got the left hand parapet in place, the Peco bridge section was used as a spacer and the right hand parapet attached to the road section. Now I inadvertently moved this when I came to actually glue that, so the glue was applied and then the gap was rechecked again before applying a coat of CA glue to finalise it. Okay, once I was happy with the location, I was out with the CA glue and bonding in place.